Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. For those of you in America, for those of you in England, good afternoon. Listen, we're talking to you guys about DJ MV. He last night, or I guess the night before, blew up on our internet because his wife declared that after a decade of their relationship, initially, she was faking the orgasm. Listen, it's a madness. I'm going to have to talk about this from several different points of view. But before I do, if you are in the chat, please leave a comment in the chat. Let us know that you're here and you're listening and you're wanting to find out a little bit more about my point of view here. And also as well, if you leave a comment and I think it's worthy, I'm going to bring it up so we can talk about it. So we're talking about DJ MV and the 10-year orgasma that she had. She had no orgasma for 10 years. The delash wasn't doing what the delash needed to do. The poussoir was suffering for a decade. People, I've told you about this. I said, even as a Christian, I keep telling y'all that we need to be educated in sex. We can't keep pretending. You know what I mean? Like we got to be able to have these type of conversations. There's no point you suffering for a decade. A decade. Oh, darling, a whole decade you are suffering. What is the point? You know what I'm saying? Like, we are suffering over a decade with no orgasma, right? So we're going to talk some real stuff today because, like I said, I think there's several different points I want to hit this at. I'll do a second video, which won't be live, and we'll talk a bit more seriously and stuff. But yeah, we wanted to break some stuff down. All right, cool. So if you're new to the channel, do me a massive favor. Like it, share, subscribe. Click on the bell button for notification of the uploads. And for those of you who are returnees, you already know what it is, baby. You got the minerals. You got the minerals. Let's just go back onto the video a little bit. Let's just have a look.
Both turtles in our relationship. We waited to have sex to our 1-year anniversary, and he made it very special and romantic. But we were two kids that didn't really know what we were doing exactly, but we had fun figuring each other out.
All right, cool. So all right, so honestly, listen, I totally get it because they actually started out when they were 15 and 16. Okay, 15 and 16. So here's my first point. My very first point is they were young and in love. And do you know what? A lot of us men at 15, 16, if we were probably in that same situation, it might have been similar. Okay, now I can't say that. I can't say that because why I'm bemused by this, okay, is because I keep saying this, especially about men, specifically about paying attention, right? Paying attention to your partner during sex. Let me just be very frank and very honest. When I first ever had sex, let me keep it an absolute buck. I didn't really know much about sex. Let's just keep it a buck, right? I barely ever knew anything about sex. I didn't know nothing about it, right? When I finally did have sex, right? I knew if the girl come or not, bruv. Because through the exploration of touching and kind of just enjoying the clitoris movement, guys, you all need to be enjoying the clitoris movement. Someone's probably going to tell me, listen, it's not church like, but we're going to talk about it, right? Through the exploration of the clitoris and just kind of exploring and working alongside my partner, the first person I slept with, you know what what the person is reaching climax or not, bro. Like, you knew. And so if they're telling me that you guys explored, an old girl didn't know, kept on faking it, it's like, did she know how to climax? We have to keep it real a buck now, because if she knew how to climax, surely in the exploration of sex, this is why we talk about relationships in all aspects of intimacy. As you're exploring these intimacies, surely a brother would have seen that old girl was not hitting the jackpot, right? But then obviously at the same time, she was saying she was faking it as well. Let me tell you this now. Does not mean anybody's climaxing. Please. Anybody watching, for people out there, if you're doing that does not mean the girl's climaxing. Okay, heavy breathing at high octaves does not mean somebody's not. You know what I'm saying, right? Does not mean that the person's climaxing. And this is what I'm trying to say. Like, this is simply just observations. Simple observations. When we're paying attention to our partner, you should start to realize, if they're and this is one of the things, conversations as well happen, right? I told y'all, I told y'all as well, like, my early days, when I was having, bunny rabbit sex, just energetic like a bunny rabbit. um One of the things I was also doing was asking, like, yo, like, is it good? Like, do you like it? Like, what's this? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I was asking those questions. And that's what actually led me down to also myself doing my own self-research around the clitoris and da-da-da and G-spots and all that stuff. I started learning about it, right? So let me tell you something, right? Let me tell you something. This is why I said, but men need to pay attention. I'm saying men specifically, right? Because I don't know how you miss it. When I went and discovered, let's just say, oral sex, right? Using one's tongue. Okay, let me just be honest with you, right? Okay. And decided to explore that with my partner. Look, the way she reacted, I knew straight away. I said, yeah, this is it. This is it. This is it. This is it. Right? I knew. And do you know what it was? It was straight after the person was like, what the frick was that? Right? So again, it wasn't, I wasn't waiting for the it's the movies. It's the movies. This all high octave sounds, okay? It's the movies. And they're not a very good movie either. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just being very frank and honest that there is a need here to pay attention to your partner. There is a need here to be observatory. There's a need here to also care and say, are you enjoying this? Let's just keep it a buck. And again, if she says later on that DJ Envy is all about pleasing, let me just say, if you're all about pleasing, oftentimes I've met other people, other man them as well, who are all about pleasing. Oftentimes, what they do, they go and learn. They want to explore. They often ask questions. They often figure out, like, are you enjoying it? If you're not enjoying it, let's change it. Because what the consciousness of the individual, right, is that I want to make sure you're getting yours as I'm getting mine. The problem is a lot of guys don't care, right? You don't care, right? You figure out, so long as she's doing, then you're doing something. But you know yourself. Even for me, because I look at it, I'm like, I was like, in my head, I'm like, yo, I'm like, even me, that's not how I come, like, that's not how I climax. I don't do I don't, nobody does that, bro. You know what I'm saying? Now you might, your little face. You know what I'm saying? You might, you know what I'm saying? But let's be frank, like, you have to explore this with your partner. There should be conversations going on. There should be there should be the exploration around, are you actually enjoying this? And so, like, yeah, there are other markers aside her grunting, and that's this is my thank you, CJ. It's often a silent release, and this is why I'm saying to you that this is what I'm saying to you about the whole situation with DJ Envy and her. I'm like, bro, so for okay, maybe the first year or two, maybe you were naive, 15, 16, you were naive, you didn't really know about the thing, and you're young, and everything like that, right? But if you're doing the necessary paperwork verbally, I mean, in a sense of conversation, right? You get to know that that's not, I remember. Okay, let me. This is what I'm saying about having these conversations, right? That's what having these conversations, right? I remember one time I was having a conversation with one of the girls that I was having sex with. Let's just keep it a buck, right? And when she was laughing at me because she was like, when you climax, your face goes. So like when you get an ugly face, I'm like, you know what I'm saying? And she was laughing at me, but I use that as a moment. I said, so wait, when you climax, what happens? Like, how do we know you've climaxed? How do we know you got to that point, right? Because then we start having an honest conversation. I was like, because obviously then you can tell if I'm erect, I'm interested, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go. How does it look for a woman? I started asking questions because I was trying to understand, because I was like a little kid in a candy store. I'm like, I want to know all the little things. Like, how do you know if you really? How do I know if you really feeling it? Like, how do I know? Because I know you can see in me, I'm outward, you know. if if my penis gets erect, outwardly, okay, he's ready to go. But for you, how do I know it's for you? Listen, at 17, I knew nothing about cum. I knew nothing. And I'm having this open, honest conversation because I really want people to understand we need to stop trying to make sex this really abstract thing. Otherwise, people just end up misusing sex, and you get 10 years, a decade of faking it. And oh my God, right? A decade. I've told you, I think I've said this before. I know there's one partner, I know there's one person in my life when I was having sex. They weren't climaxing. I know. I was trying everything I could. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out. I was trying to figure it out. But do you know what? And then to my fault, I wasn't asking enough questions. Right? I wasn't asking enough questions. I know there's one partner that will come to me, and one person, or I should say, that I've had sex with. I know that if they were to say something, I couldn't say nothing because we weren't conversating, right? We weren't conversating. We weren't talking on that level. And it was just a hit it, let's go, boom. Okay, are you satisfied? I'm cool. No, but we know you're not like, you know what I'm saying? Like the shake is more important than the like so. Anyway, listen. I don't want to get too deep into the thing. It's still early mornings and that. Do you know what I mean? So it's and that's what I'm saying about being concerned about being concerned about the other person's journey experience in sexual intimacy is their responsibility, but it's also yours if you're enjoying and you're committing to someone in this particular area. It is both of you to explore and both of you to actually begin to communicate with one another to understand each other. Let me listen a little bit more to DJ Envy anyway. Let me listen to more to DJ Envy. Listen to what he's saying. It's crazy.
Most young girls, and even many, many, many women, I'm sure so many women can relate, but you don't know how to achieve an orgasm.
Yeah.
A lot of women have no idea what it feels like to have an orgasm through sexual intercourse. They know how to do it themselves, or they know how to do it through oral sex, but through sexual intercourse, a lot of women just don't know. Now, if you don't know, how do you expect your man to know?
And that is one of the other problems that were in other situation that came about here. Unfortunately, here, unfortunately, here, as you, I don't want to say unfortunately, she's explaining something that is a phenomenon that does happen. So she's saying, in this aspect, if she don't know, how is he gonna know? And that is a big thing because if she doesn't know her body in that sense, she doesn't know. But here's my thing as well. Here's my thing. This is why communication in sex, on the job training, we called it. We had this conversation a few months ago. Why it's important, because as we're exploring this, that's why, because we treat sex like it's get in, that's it. Like, no, but and because of pornography, it has warped a lot of our minds in terms of what sex is. It's just, so what happens is you get in there, but there should have, like, even if she doesn't know her body, right? If we're both exploring sex in a particular way, right? There's an exploration piece where it's like, okay, when I go this way, does that work? Do you know what I'm saying? Okay, when I'm this way, does it work? We spoke about this last time when we spoke about on the job training, that when two people, and this is why I said, like, when sex is just utilized as a tool, if people are not advanced in this tool, then it just becomes this thing where people are going to be faking it for 10 years, right? But in a sense of when you are having sex, it's almost it's two people exploring and communicating in that way. So if I'm coming at you in this particular way, if you're saying, all right, cool, you know what, missionary position, all right, cool, when you do it like this, that's working for me. When I'm doing like this ain't working for me. But if we're not asking that question, if we're not exploring that, if we're not trying to just see, let me tell you something. Look, when I first introduced sex, I don't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know. You know what I mean? I just thought it was the I just thought I was meant to be doing DDD, right? And as you begin to mature, you begin to ask questions as well. You start to ask questions around being, that's a true point, AJ Dub. That's a true point, right? you know, so it's a case of when two people are really trying to be in sync. And that's why I said to you that when if I, and this is why I said about people caring, because I cared, and I think I told you, let me keep it all the way free. Let me keep it all the way free. You know, I'm sure some questions are probably going to kill me, but it is what it is. Sometimes you got to take the risk, right? To have real conversation. When I first started having sex, the stroke game was abysmal. Let me be very frank with you. All right. The stroke game was abysmal. And even later, it took me years. It's taken me years. I'm gonna tell you something. My stroke game has taken me years. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like to lie. Let's keep it a buck. The stroke game took me years to pick up, bro. Years to pick up. So so what I did is I compensated. I said, you know what? If the stroke game ain't gonna be on point, the tongue game is gonna be on point, right? Because you gotta get yours somehow. Like I cannot comfortably engage in sex with you and know you're not getting yours. Because for me, it's about we are both trying to enjoy the situation. Do you know what I'm saying? Right? And so I was like, all right, let's compensate. All right, cool, fine. If you can't get the stroke game all the way you want it to be, make sure the tongue game is on point. Make sure you know how to do the tongue game so old girl gets hers and boom. So I made sure that was tip top shape. All right, cool. You gonna get yours. And that was my thought, because my thing is, how can we engage in this and you starving? That it's like coming to eat and then saying you can't eat off the plate. It's like coming to a dinner table and so much uh there's so much food on the table that looks righteous, looks good. You get your fork, you're about to dig it into the food, and I say I need you to back up. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to back up, okay? I'm gonna need you to back. Don't touch the food. Like how this is how people approach sex. It's almost like you've got this amazing thing, but then there's no communication, there's no conversation, there's no talking, there's no exploration, there's no like, okay, how do we improve on this? There is no, okay, do you know what? I'm not liking this. There's this, I like hitting it from the back, or I like hitting it from the front, or you know what? I like it when you do, but 10 years. Oh, 10 years. No. And that's what I'm saying to you, that even I knew. Do you know what I mean? I even at my young age knew, oh, that girl enjoying. She ain't enjoying. She ain't, bro. Yeah, and then I can tell by the way that your body move. You ain't climaxing. So you can't fake that the octaves and the sounds, because that's not how they climax. Because like I said, I started asking conversations. That's not how everybody climaxes. So that wasn't a measure at all. It's about asking questions. All right. All right. So yeah, I mean, 10 years is a hell of a long time. All right. Let's move away from that slightly, because let's talk about another angle. Because there's another angle to this conversation. There's another aspect to this conversation, which is someone actually said that as well. This is a good point. If a man can't make a man, it's either because of the hidden resentment, sexual abuse, or poor communication, maybe poor hygiene. Maybe the male partner is too small. Wow, damn. Okay. Oh, damn. Cheated a. Cheated a. Okay. Cheated a. And then Ashley L said, and he had the nerve to cheat on top of this, shaking my head. But you know what's interesting? The cheating would come through, because I think instinctively down, I mean, men cheat anyway, so that's not even a problem. But instinctively down there, you probably know as well, instinctively down in your heart, that you know she isn't really enjoying you the way you thought you were enjoying. You know, I think part of him probably knew. Okay, maybe at 15, 16, all right, but you get older, right? You hear other man's stories about other gal, and you telling me you didn't think that your gal is not. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on. Anyway, so the other angle I wanted to kind of come at this particular thing is, I really do appreciate this conversation though. A lot of the manosphere, I've already seen their videos. They are coming up, they are already trashing Gia. his wife. They're already coming at her saying she's a next Jada. She's emasculating him. She's embarrassing him. She's just trying to make him, trying to get him back for the cheating, all of this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, you know what? That is a possibility. There is a possibility that, you know what, DJ Envy's wife wanted to have this conversation so much because it would be her getting him back. It could be, right? It could be. It could be that. But I also look at the other aspect is this is why men don't improve. This is why men do not improve, because this is a kind of conversation that a lot of you men out there, you are trash in bed, and these girls are lying to you. Do you know how many times? No. Let me keep it real. Now let me keep it real with you. The last few encounters I've been having, with women, there's a common theme I've been hearing. No. Let me break this for you, because people are looking at DJ Envy and saying, she emasculated you, she embarrassed you. Some of you needed to hear this because some of you are just like DJ Envy. At your big boy age, some of you are like this. When we had a conversation, when I was in South Africa, we were having this conversation. And I've had this conversation several times, right? There are so many women, right? There are so many women that go through a relationship or even a sexual experience with a man and they don't come. They don't climax. And then when you meet them and you make them climax, and then they tell you, oh my God, like, I've never climaxed before. You are handling like this, what? So then you realize we've got an epidemic on our hands, a pandemic, epidemic, man epidemic, sex epidemic, I don't know what you want to call it. A lot of that stuff is happening. A lot of women are suffering this way, which means there's a lot of men in there who are DJ Envy. So whilst people are cussing DJ Envy, saying, why is he having this conversation? No. You yourself think you're amazing. You're not amazing, bro. Because I met your girl, bro. Okay, I shouldn't say like that. But like, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's deep, when you finally know what you're doing as a man. And I said this, us as men, we were talking in South Africa and we're having this conversation and saying, as men, when you know that you make this girl climax, it's here, your brain is something different. The way your ego grows as a man, when you're hitting it right, let's keep it a buck. When you're hitting it right and you know this girl is climaxing, right? She's enjoying. The way she sees you is even different. Okay? All right? So I'm confused. If you're not really asking questions to make sure that this person that you're having sex with is actually enjoying it and climaxing the same way. Do you get what I'm saying? You feel me? Right? Okay, so someone said girls don't also know their bodies as well. And this is true, right? This is true. And maybe I'll put this out in the open rather than it being a definitive statement. I've encountered, I'm actually exposing all my sins in the past. I don't like to say all the things I've done, but I've encountered a situation where a girl don't really know her body like that, but we took the time and just kind of explored it. Found by the end, we are going. Like it, when you take that time, and I'm not saying, I don't try to like boast it in that way. It's more of a case of like, as you grow and mature in that aspect. And listen, in the last 2-3 years, the maturity is also grown differently because, like I said, the more confidence you're able to have conversation and on the job training, you're able to say, hey, babe, what are you saying? Like, is that, let's, no. You want it like that? I got you. So a lot of times our ego and our pride as men specifically stops us from really having this exploration piece. But this is a good point. Women that don't know their bodies also too is going to be a bit more difficult to also extend that. But hey, listen, Ha man. Anyway, listen, let me get back to what I was trying to say, right? Let me say what I was trying to say. So people are saying obviously that DJ Envy's wife was masculine, and I'm saying to you that a lot of men are DJ Envy. A lot of men are DJ Envy. A lot of men are doing what DJ Envy does. You know, for his one, it was 10 years, not really conversating, not really understanding what she was really doing. But then the other aspect is a lot of men, okay, all right, are DJ Envy, and they struggle. They think they are the shiznit. And we need to have a realer conversation around this as a society as to why women feel to placate a man's ego in sex. Now, I'm not saying that you should just come out and say whatever you said. We had this conversation on our channel about how to have this kind of conversation, right? Well, not life of Bod saying that, but it's there's a conversation that needs to be. How do the conversation, and why are women feeling like they have to lie to the man that they care about or love? Because that's what, in this situation, it's not just a quickie, it's not a one-off. This is somebody who you like, you love, right? And that person who you like or you love, all right, in that space, okay, they need to know this information. So why are women feeling like they have to placate or lie, right? So this is a two-pronged conversation, because in society, have we got a society that lets women feel like they can't say what they need to say? Is there a part also that for men, for men, that we can't take feedback? Is it a bit of both? It's a bit of everything. I think it's a bit of everything. I think there are certain women that want to be able to have this conversation, but they also want to protect the ego of the man that they're with, and that conversation becomes difficult. I think then that also there are men too, maybe in other ways, where men can't take information very well, can't take that correction very well, and therefore then we have two people now treading on eggshells, not really wanting to say how they feel about their sex in their relationship. I'd rather you tell me, coach, look, this is not working for me. Because for me, I want to improve. I want to make sure that you are enjoying. I want to make sure that you tip top. I need to make sure that you are hitting your place too, because as a person who cares about you, I want the same for you, right? So I think there's a bit of both here. I think there's a bit of both here, because I think women also need to be more vocal about it, but we need to find. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. No. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I know the ladies are also saying, ego's getting away. Okay, all right, yep. And the men, oftentimes don't really listen. I hear that. You know, then we need to find a way that works, and um how we actually discuss sex then, right? We need to find a way that we discuss this with our partners, that we understand that there's a pride, there's an ego into that, right? um there's a way. Now, if it's not everybody, of course, look, if it's not everybody that can have this conversation, you got to ask yourself this real question. If you can't have a conversation, wait, what? I'm gonna address that in a second. Um, if you can't have this conversation, then is this person for you? Right? If you can't have this conversation, right? Is this relationship for you? Why why suffer in this aspect and then potentially blow up later on down the line? Because when you hear DJ Envy's story with his wife, she said the information came out because there was an argument, because he thought he was levels. He thought he was the bee's knees. And he was like, well, we can just solve it with sex. And then she was like, oh, yeah, hold on a minute. You ain't that good. Right? So if we can't have that conversation, do we have any business marrying this person? Do we have any business in long-term relationships with this person? Do you know what I'm saying? Right? So that's a key question we have to start asking ourselves as well. Like, should we be in relationship with these kind of people? We want to be able to explore conversations like this. We should be able to say it. It is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is. We have to be able to have those conversations. as well. Um, yeah. She said she did tell him. Discussion was about having conversation, how things change. Yeah, but she didn't tell him about sex. That's not what I listened. That's not what I heard on the audio. What I heard was that it came out in an argument because they were having conversations about relationships, about the relationship, and he was then saying, "Well, we just figured this out with sex then," and she was like, "Well, your sex ain't that great." So it came out in an argument rather than that conversation. And thank God they managed to stay together. But I want to go back to this point. So I've argued with men telling them I didn't finish yet when they think I did. It's ridiculous. And again, this is a this is going to be another red flag for you ladies out there specifically. If we can't have open-ended conversations about sex in a most mature, grown, without trying to hurt you, some of you like to hurt people's feelings. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Some of you do, right? Men and women, but some of you don't know how to discuss certain sensitive topics. Let's keep it a buck. Your sex is trash. That's not going to solve the issue. Yeah, your stroke game is poor. It's not going to solve the issue. You know, we gotta be we gotta find a way to have this kind of conversations. But anyway, so yeah, I that's ridiculous. If a man is arguing with you, saying that he thinks that you finished, and you're telling him you haven't finished, that don't even make sense. What kind of man is that? Do you know what I'm saying? So again, these are warning signs that you shouldn't be in a relationship with this type of gentleman or lady if they're like this. Because how can you come to me and tell me like you haven't finished? I'm like, no, you have finished. Huh? Am I your body? Am I your body? I'm not your body. So how can I tell you that you finished? You told me you finished. Do you know what I mean? That's senseless and madness behavior. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's crazy. It's a lot, you know. Yeah, you're right, Stacey. Though you're right, you're right. It is a taboo. Um, you know, and even myself, I'm trying to rid myself. You know, I'm trying to rid myself of that taboo because I want to be able to help other people have these type of conversations as well as myself. So it is a journey in itself trying to get from that. Um, Titan W says the yielding and patience during communicating definitely helped me when communicating to my female partner my unfulfillment. Granted, her pride ranked up to describe or defend her experience. Okay, love that. So just the patience during the communicating helped when you're communicating with your partner. All right. I definitely hear that. So okay, it's not just a man thing. It is your partner also too had that little bit of that pride as well in that moment as well. Yeah, it is. I thought it's funny when women don't give direct feedback when it's bad, but can be vocal to tell a man when they've done well. However, men should be more aware of their own performance. Absolutely, absolutely, bro. I hear what you're saying. Um, you know, Someone said, "Why is everything public now? I mean, watch for your marriage only. Give me discretion." I think, yeah. I mean, but I think someone needs to take a lead, though. Someone has to take a lead in this kind of conversation because people are in these situations a lot. And because we don't discuss things like this, people do suffer in silence. That's why she had a 10-year streak because no one else probably has said anything. No one else is having this conversation. People are lying, saying how amazing, how great sex is with their partner when really it's probably trash. And so unfortunately, this is the issue. Now, I think a lot of men are angry at DJ Envy's wife because their game is also trash. It's as simple as that. When I saw what I saw, I didn't get angry. Me, I know what my game is. If my game was trash, me too, I'd also be concerned because like you're exposing my trash game and I know how people are going to rate me. But if I know my game is on point, if you say what you said, like I'm cool, like yeah, of course. At the beginning when I started, yeah, it wasn't like that. I already told you guys. I come out on the internet. I already told you guys. I said, listen, if certain women in the past come out, I can't say anything because they didn't get the best of me. I'm just gonna be honest with you. They didn't get the best of me, and that's okay. I'm gonna have to hold that L at that time. Now when it comes to more, you know what I mean? Like let me express myself. So you know what I'm saying. So you have to just be a lot of the times when I see people, especially I'm seeing my YouTube now, and people, the manosphere responding, she's emasculating, embarrassing him, but they've both chosen to have this conversation. Is it emasculating because he wasn't good at it? So if he was amazing at it, it wouldn't be emasculating, right? But if he can then help other people say, listen, look, I too was failing to communicate. I too was failing to have conversations. Then you could be helping someone possibly as well in the future. A lot of men need to have this conversation. I'm just saying, again, Yeah, they speak about how they've grown together, sex has improved, communication has improved, and they've been open about their challenges in a podcast, which is what people need. People need some of this honesty because we're not having conversations in relationships, man. We're not having these conversations. Um, Anna said, I've never lied or faked. You have to know how to direct your partner so you can be pleased. I definitely hear you. Definitely hear you. Love that point. Tan W said, still allowing us both that space to answer each other's desires in a way it's actually exciting now and not so much eye rolling. And that is a key point, Tan. Love that point because the whole, I've heard, oh my days, I've heard some scary stories. I've heard some scary stories where girls like, look, I just want him to hurry up and finish. Hey, hurry and finish. Like, no, 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 no. Like, if you get to that point where you're like, Kojo, hurry up and finish, why are we here? No, 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 no. I don't want to be in that space. I don't want to be in that space. So if I'm having relations like that, it should never be that you've got to put your eye rolling like, oh my god, okay, yeah, flip over. All right, da, da, da. We don't want to get to that point. There should be open communication to speaking about these things so that we can both enjoy it. Sex is meant to be enjoyable. Guys, my God. Man, that's it, man. I hear that. You get me? Nat said, I can't lie. DJ Envy looks weak. He needs some steamed fish and okra. I mean, listen, my thing is the difficulty behind this conversation was, I think my camera be moving mad. Sorry, my camera's trying to move mad. I think the difficulty behind the situation really is that people are not used to talking about their failures. People don't usually like talking about the failures in this type of area because of the way our society is set up, right? So if you talk about how you failed in this area, it's like you're going to be laughed at, you're going to be mocked, etc., right? But the reason why it looks like it's going to be weak is because we assume that a lot of men are good at what they're doing, right? That's how society puts it across, because not many men are exposing the fact that they're not great. Not many women are exposing the fact that men ain't great. So what's happening is when someone does admit that they're not great in a certain area, everyone goes, "Oh, he looks weak." No, but there's a lot of men out there who are just as weak, if you're going to say that, but are not exposing what they're doing. So it looks like, oh, this guy's weak. No, I think it takes strength to be this vulnerable. I think it takes strength to come out and say, "Listen, hey, look, I wasn't getting it right." Now, what I wish he did was I wish he took more of the narrative. I wish he took more of the narrative, because that would have showed me he actually learned. What I heard was more of her saying, I didn't, Climax for 10 years. I wasn't getting it. Da, da, da. Now, if what I wanted to hear was DJ Envy coming out and saying, listen, do you know what? It was me, I was so focused on just me. I wasn't really focusing. And here's what I did to kind of change that. I went here, I went there. I learned this. And when I learned that and I implemented it, boy, listen, I just saw a change in the relationship. That would have been him taking control of the narrative and also showing us that, he's put work in. It can look weak because she's explaining it and just saying, oh, we've improved. But how have we improved? Or are you just saying that to cover him? Now, of course, I'm sure. I mean, if she didn't say it for 10 years, if it hasn't improved, she probably wasn't going to say it now. But, it's the optics that it looks like. So I do get it. I do get it. Do you know what I'm saying? So, man. Champagne said it only went well once. Boy. Whew, Chile. Yeah. Man. I lost comment. Tando says, I have asked my ex about poor feedback in sex, and he said no, and I was scared because he thought he was tip top and he wasn't. So how do you then move forward telling them that no one said anything? Nah, jokes. You know what? I've asked my ex about poor feedback in sex, and he said no. Are you saying you want to have a conversation about feedback in terms of the sex? And he said no to it, and I was scared because he thought he was. Check. So we spoke about this. There's a whole video we got here on this particular topic. We spoke about this We spoke about this for about 2 hours. As men, we spoke about this, about ways to approach this. So, Tando, hit me up on Instagram or email me, and I'll send you the link for the video. I don't know if I can put the link in the video. Maybe I can find it and put it into the chat for you guys. But we discussed this because this aspect of conversation around intimacy and about wanting to have better relations in this area, it's important to be able to be open to this kind of conversation. But in terms of men, because of their egos, let's be honest, our egos, right? Because of our egos, it can become very difficult um, when it becomes very, very difficult when you want to have this conversation. I personally think, the way that they explained it on our panel was there is a positive regard you give. Say, hey, look, my husband, I'm liking, our sex in this particular area. When do, this, it works for me. What I would love to improve on is just this little area here. Like, I would love to do a bit more of that, So you kind of give that person like a, how we call sandwich. When you get that, when you get your boss at work giving you like, hey, look, you're doing great at this, continue doing that. Here's an area of improvement. I think we can work together on. I think we can work together on this part where we can have this. So I think there's that aspect as well in terms of addressing it in that particular manner. If your partner's saying they want to give you feedback, this is really a scary thing because they're gonna need some feedback. You don't want to wait till you explode and then you finally tell them in a fit of anger, right? You're gonna have to say, listen, look, we do need to have a serious conversation around this area because I want to be able to enjoy sex more with you, you know. So listen, if that don't work, you might have to sit in front of a sexual counselor. There are sex counselors out there, okay? That might have to be brought in. Something's got to happen because you can't keep suffering. It's that simple. Women are really great at indirecting. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like, they'll throw a link at you or something like that, or But anyway, let me not put ideas in your head, man. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you might have to hit me up and I'll send you a link for the video. This conversation that should be had with a marriage counselor. It's not for the public. Yeah. I mean, you could say that. I think we're in a generation where we share a lot of things. I think depending on where you are in that journey, I think that's how the conversation should flow. If you are in a better place in that journey, I think you're in a better place to have this conversation. You know what I mean? Like, if you've worked on it and you're not embarrassed by the fact you've put the work in and you've had to make sure that this is something that you guys have had to put effort into, you don't really mind as much because you've worked on it, you've improved, you've got yourself to a certain place. But if you're still in that place, maybe you shouldn't be having that conversation. You get me? It's yeah. Simply Fit with Chandra said, I've been in a situation, my last marriage, open, honest, and clear communication is key. Time of conversation. And this is what we spoke about. I don't want to rehash that whole video because the video was 2.5 hours long of just, we broke all of this kind of stuff down. But this is really, there is time, there is seasons, there is a way to discuss this topic as well. And that's why I said it takes both parties. People need to learn how to have this conversation and know the right time in terms of addressing things, and how to address things as well. So yeah, Simply Fit with Sandra, we discussed this and we spoke about this as men and said, look, we know sometimes we don't, do well. Sometimes we struggle in certain areas, but having this conversation is important, So irrespective, there is a way that we have to address it. There's a way that we have to come at it. There's a way that we have to go about it. So yeah. Let me read some more comments and then we'll continue the conversation. Let's see what you guys are actually saying in the chat. See what's going on. EC Dub says, not telling me crucial information for 10 years. Later in the argument is a huge issue. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the biggest problem there too as well. That 10 years later, you haven't felt confident enough to tell me this, and it comes out in an argument. That relationship can I'm saying like it's a blessing they never broke up, because that one conversation can finish. And I'm not sure if he cheated after that or before that. I'm not sure. So I probably have to figure that out as well, because that might be part of it as well. Let's not forget that envy used to say he's very insecure. This is very true. Okay, so this is also another aspect. If you're very insecure, it can be very hard to want to address these issues once again. And again, this is a part of the past. So I keep asking people this key question: are we sure we're dating the right kind of people? Why are we dating people we can't conversate with? Right? Why are we dating people we can't conversate with? Men and women, by the way, we have to start learning how to be able to choose people that are healthy, not just fine, but healthy and open to conversations. But again, time, season, how, where, when you discuss this topic is very, very important. Just wanting to say, I'm not liking it, won't help the situation. One has to be careful, has to be circumspect in the way that they address the issue, and be very precise, and also be loving and caring in doing so as well. Right. So someone else got on a story. He said, I tried to tell an ex what I liked, and he said I was hard to please. That didn't make me try to explain differently. I left. Yeah. Okay. So this is it. So this situation, right? There are a lot of times when people are saying they can't discuss it, it's because the person doesn't really care about what you think. The person does not care about your particular pleasure in this. We shouldn't be dating people like that. We shouldn't, right? You tried to tell an ex what I liked, and he said it was hard to please. My next answer should be, so how do we get to that place? Like, oh, look, I don't know how we get there, but let's try to explore this. I'm not sure how we get it, but let's explore this. That should be an answer, right? I'm just saying, man, yeah. Shanna Mob said, sometimes people feel like they are alone, and plenty of people in these situations. It's refreshing to see a married couple speak on these issues. The fairy tale gets you to the wedding. Thank you. This is why I said I think it's an important conversation to have, because if nobody's having a conversation, but people are experiencing this regularly, there is people are suffocating, and then there's nowhere else to look. Like, who's else is having these problems? Is it normal? Am I supposed to suffer? Am I not supposed to suffer? Like, should I continue? Like, how do I fix it? None of those answers can come when no one's didn't mean to drop a little pun there, but none of these answers can come because really and truly there is nowhere discussing these issues, or there's it's and since sex is taboo, can't be just going to asking your friend and telling your friend, so we're not really enjoying sex and my partner really isn't making me climax, so what do you think I should do? Like, people don't want to go to their friend and expose their partner to a friend too. So it's like people are locked in and lost, you know it's so that's difficult, that's difficult too. So yeah, and so it does help. Um, you know, listen, a little bit. In other words, we might need to start a dialogue on women performing trash sexual acts or hygiene and why we don't speak up. I mean, and this is why I'm saying that both parties got to start learning to be able to grow in communications. If old girl ain't putting it down right, if the guap 3000 ain't working. Okay, all right. The guap 3000, you all know what I mean by when I say guap 3000. If that ain't working, then we got to know how to discuss and say, actually, the technique that you're using right now, that ain't really it. But that's why I said I like on the job training, because like I'm gonna be like, look, if the if you're giving me oral and I'm like, ooh, babe, like, okay, less teeth. Or I might say, listen, hey babe, look, you hitting it right there. Keep hitting. You right there. I might be like, oh, you're there, you're there, you're there, you're there, you're there. Continue, continue, continue. Like, that is what we call positive, confirmations, right? Positive. How do we call it? I can't remember what the actual term is, right? But you let the person know that this is. That's what I said about you. Let the person know that this is working. This is not working. So these are important dialogues. So yeah, I hear you, Laughable. Um, anyway, yeah. It's a bit of a mad thing still. It's a bit of a mad thing. Yeah. Whew, gaga. My God. Mm, mate. Uh Discussing this shouldn't be an issue at all. We also have to allow people to do in their relationships what they want to do and what they wish to share. This is about to get them more book purchases. Absolutely. Yeah, they're gonna get more book purchases, man. Um, this is another thing. Sometimes you don't want it, but you do it to make your partner happy. This is also very true as well, right? It's also very true as well. Someone said, "Is it too early in the morning for this, coach?" Well, technically for me, it's afternoon, so it's never too early. Can we discuss the generational impact? Men who are envy's age are more defensive and unable to hear feedback. Oh, oh. I won't say anything. Okay, I hear you. Be well. He said, "Be well. Just add in balance as both women and men share how they feel about sex. Are both losing out? Absolutely. Okay. So Shania. I hope I pronounced it right. Shania Spencer. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong. I apologize. You might have to spell the phonetics for me. Says, could this be another reason as to why many married men complain about their sex life with their wife, and why some wives don't really want to have sex with their husband?" Wow. Mm. It's a good point, But this is again when things are going downhill, people rather let the snowball gather speed than say, let me just get in front of it and try to stop it. And actually, let's try to figure out how to change course. I think that's also another thing as well about marriage. Of course, look, you having sex with the same person, at a point in time, you're going to reach a plateau. But I think there's also aspects of both of us coming to the table and saying, all right, so how do we spice this up? How do we spice up? I was having a conversation. I won't go too deep into it because I think it's maybe not for the internet. Who knows? But I was discussing it with someone. I was saying, like, you start playing, like, when you enjoy sex and you're in a safe company with someone, there's an exploration of creativity that we can start to explore, right? We can start to explore with role playing. We can start to explore with power dynamics and stuff like that. We can explore bondage if that's what you want to do. You can explore different aspects of your creativity. And also another thing, because people are not discussing this about their marriages, from what I've heard, as people get older and as they get longer in their marriages and stuff like that, there's an aspect of trying to set up sex before we have sex that I normally wouldn't necessarily be involved in because I guess in my age group, maybe that's not necessarily a thing, right? We don't, or maybe I've not dated someone who has kids and we're married and stuff like that. So it's a bit different, right? But there's an aspect from what I've heard when I'm hearing certain married couples talk on these kind of issues, a very few that I've heard. There's an aspect of setting up sex before sex, meaning there's a whole string of behaviors that happen throughout the course of the day that get people to a point that they're ready to be a freak. Okay, let's keep it a buck, right? Whether that is, you performing an act of service that morning, grabbing the person a tea or a hot chocolate, maybe on your way to work. Maybe you send a little risky message during the day. Maybe that's you, coming home a little bit earlier, cleaning the house, making sure it's nice and tidy. Whatever it is, I don't know, but from what I'm hearing, there is little aspects of people that are in that phase where you're getting to sex before sex. Like, you are setting up sex before you have sex. It's not just we get in the bedroom, we do what we do. So, that could also be a situation. It is, So, yeah, I love that point too. Yeah. That's a good point. Woo, boy, Chile. Woo, Chile. I'm seeing the comments in the comment section. I'm telling you, man. Yo. Man. Yeah. Don't suffer for sex, please, guys. Prayer won't change it. When God is looking at you and saying you need to have a conversation with your partner. This is another thing as well, from a Christian point of view. I want to say this as well. Look, for those who are Christians, I know some Christians, and this is my thing as well. Like, because Christians don't have a space, because we don't really talk about sex, because it's Obviously, of course, it can be taboo, and it can be, are we allowed to talk about sex because we're Christians? But I honestly think some of you are trying to pray away. Some of you are trying to pray your sex into climax. It's not going to happen. You are not going to pray your sex into climax. I'm not saying that prayer don't work. I'm not saying prayer don't help. I'm saying to you that prayer, oftentimes when we're asking God for certain things like this, there is a practical direction God wants to give you too. Go and learn. Go and learn. When we look at Moses and Joshua in the Bible, we see Moses raising his hands. And so long as he raised his hands, the battle will be in Israel's hands. But if Joshua is not downstairs fighting, doesn't matter how much Moses raised his hands. It took both of them. So that lets me know it is good to be spiritual and to raise one's hands and to praise God and to pray, God, let us have climaxes in this relationship. But there's an aspect of learning that are you doing? There's an aspect of, are you putting in some practicalities? Right? Are you actually putting the work in? Just saying you want a climax or you want a better sex life without actually putting the work in is problematic. Right? It doesn't work like that. And because, again, people are not willing to put the practical work in, they spiritualize everything, forgetting the Bible says that though we're not a part of this world, but we're in this world. I flipped it around. It's mostly saying that though we're in this world, we're not a part of it. But in the sense of the fact that you are still human, you are still on earth. Okay, all right. You've got to do practical things. You can't keep screaming prayer, but then not actually talking about it, and then not actually putting work in. Yes, faith without works is dead, right? True faith should lead to works. And this is the whole point. True faith in God should lead you into works. It's not that works actually is faith. No. True faith in Jesus should lead you into works. So it is, I truly have that faith. It should lead me into practicality. It should lead me into action. It should lead me into doing, because there's something motivating me, pushing me in that direction. So yes, the trouble is that there's another voice that happens through our culture and our traditions of men, where we say sex becomes so taboo that people have a block on their mind about sex, so they don't want to go and don't want to go and learn it, because they feel like, if I go and learn it, am I being seedy? If I learn it, am I sinning? If I'm learning, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, uh, uh, am I doing something wrong? So I get it. There's another voice that we're hearing. So, I want people to understand. Listen, exploration of sex is important, my G. Right? Exploration. Right? Okay. So, okay, love this. So, Sarah, thank you for sharing this. It's really important as well. I appreciate you sharing this as well. I did the same. I faked it for nearly 10 years with an ex too, because I was in love and the sex was good, just not great. And this is what I'm saying. There's a lot of times where the sex is good, it's not great. And the next step of taking it to great is having that conversation. The next step of great is really saying, do you know what? Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try it. Oh, you want to experiment with toys? Let's try it. Let's try it. Yeah, let's try it. Let's try it. Let's try it. Let's go and see what happens. And having that fun around that area. I mean, you ain't gotta tell me what you're doing, right? So I'm just saying, um, and as well, I want to say as well, for people, like, a lot of people underestimate the mental connection that happens during sex, that people forget too. So you said toxic X. The reason why toxic X can really work is because the mental connection is there. Even though he's toxic, mentally you're still connected to that person. And especially if that person now knows your body, oh, they're going to make your body respond, isn't it? But the mental connection is really important too. The mental aspect, the connection that you guys have, is also really important in the sex that you guys have. So yeah, I mean, honestly, um, someone said if the toy is better than him, she will still be faking. Yeah, but you know what it is? Like, again, a toy can only do so much. That's why I said to you, You can be stimulated in your body by a toy, but what you have to understand, especially as a man, if it goes, your mental connection to that person, your willingness to want to provide desire, to provide pleasure for that person, your desire to want to please that person, your desire to want to love and care that person, and you want to enjoy sex with that person, and for them to enjoy it, really and truly, listen, that be the most fire sex you be getting. And the reason, again, the toy is not replacing you, it's an addition. It's an addition. So you should see it as an aid. Don't see it as competition. How can you compete with a toy? Go and see it as an aid. It is someone that's aiding you, helping you. Don't see it as competition. You get me? You feel me? And if that means, listen, if the person is using a toy more than thing, we got to be open and honest and say, hey, look, can I be honest? You know what? I feel some type of way about the toy situation. It looks like you're enjoying the toys more than our sex. What is there an issue here that we should work on? Is there something that we should be looking into? Right? So we have to ask this question again, um, around this aspect, right? We need, so if you feel, again, and this again, it's about having that conversation. If you feel the toy is replacing you, then you better ask the question first. You better answer first. I remember when the toy got introduced into my situation, I was happy, bruv. I said, took the pressure right off me, bro. Took the pressure right off me. That's another tool in my armory. Yeah, that's another tool in my armory, bro. Listen, I see it as, whoa, another toy. Bro, bring the toy in, because that's gonna help me, bro. Because fam, listen, there's other areas of me that could, I might need a break or two. You know what I'm saying? I might need to rest in between. I might need to recover. You know what I mean? Like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to see the toy as an enemy, bro. It's in a it's not even a real thing. It's it's an object. So listen, I can use a toy at the same time I'm doing my thing. Like, you got to start again. These are conversations though that we should be having. These are conversations we should be having. If the girl is saying, like, if a woman is saying she wants to introduce a toy into a situation, uh, you know, listen, as it is, my friend, talk to the person, let them know, like, well, go on, okay, cool. Look, you know what? I guess we're exploring this aspect. Can we improve on this? Does it need to be this? Da, da, da? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, bruh, I don't know about you. Listen, again, I don't want to go too deep, but let me just be. Listen, have you ever had a situation? Listen, man, them know, like, situation where, fam, you're doing do, and your hand is tired, bro. Why not grab the toy and replace your hand effort? No. Sometimes you see, that's what I'm trying to say to you. When your ego and your pride gets ahead of you, right? Then that's where you got a problem. When your ego and your pride goes ahead of you, you will start missing out on the blessings potentially that a toy could bring into your sexual intimacy. Hey, do you know how sometimes sometimes your arm is tired, bro? Sometimes your arm is tired, bro. Sometimes my jaw is aching, bro. Sometimes I'm too tired to want to do that. What? Let me bring something in to ease my work. Would you rather wash your clothes by hand or get a washing machine? Listen, sometimes you want to use. I mean, most of us know what washing machine does now. It makes life so much easier. Whereas at first, a washing machine might have been like, oh, they're taking our jobs. No, bro, listen, put it in the washing machine. It's easier. I'm just saying, like, do you know what I mean? So listen, and because, listen, let me be honest with you. When you've explored different women as well, some women, it doesn't take long. You get involved and it's easy and you ain't got this problem. Some women, it takes a little bit longer, bro. Some women, it takes longer for them to climax. And at that rate, when it takes them longer, I need help. I might need some help. I'm gonna need some help. I'm gonna need some help. I'm gonna need some help. Okay, so I don't know, like, you guys, if you're fighting the toy situation, stop fighting the toy situation. Ladies, send this video to the man them. If you're suffering, if they're crying about the toy situation, sir, I need you to look at it differently. Change your perspective. Change it. It's not replacing you, it's an addition to you. It's not taking away from you, it's an adding to you. And see, what you don't realize is that if your objective, remember, we talk about servitude in a relationship all the time, right? We talk about serving one another. If both people are trying to serve one another, they put the other person first. That is how sex should be. If I'm engaging in sex, my first foremost when it comes to this is that I should be putting you first. So when the toy is added, I'm thinking about, does it make it better for you? Are you enjoying it more when the toy is added? Is it a no? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it making it more pleasurable for you when the toy is added? If it is, all right, cool. Then my objective is to serve you in that place. I don't want to fight on this. Like, it doesn't make sense to fight on this because the whole objective is that you get yours. I'm serving you in that moment. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm serving you in that moment. And and this is another thing as well, especially, you know, especially if the toy is being used in conjunction with you guys exploring. So it's not like she's even doing it alone. I mean, if that's what she wants to get her own. But it's been done in conjunction with you. So it's both of us exploring. So it's not even like the person's removing you. You're both exploring it. You know what I mean? So don't fight the toy. The toy is not your competition. The toy is just an addition. The toy is it's just an addition. It's an addition. You got to start seeing it as that. Some y'all, I mean, like, y'all be fighting things because of your pride and your ego. I'll be like, yo, like, it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of my time. You know, um, someone said, don't warm me up with a toy because I'm gonna be done. And that's okay. So then again, and this is a beautiful thing. Then you start to work together and be like, okay, cool. If the toy can't be introduced too early because it's gonna take you over the edge, all right, cool. We're gonna work it out. We're gonna talk about it. Be like, all right, cool. Like, if that takes you over the edge too quickly, all right, then you know what? We will warm up in other ways. We'll warm up in other ways. We will foreplay in other ways first and experiment with that, and then we'll maybe come to a toy later on if that's what you want. If you don't want a toy, that's cool too. If the toy isn't your thing, if the toy isn't your thing, then it's not your thing. It's not every girl that I've dealt with that's one of the toy. Like, let's, it's fair. It's fair enough. Um, you know, so yeah, hey, you know what I mean? But it's a good point. Stop denying the science and human advancements. Exactly. Let's not do that. We don't need to fight on those aspects. We should be comfortable being able to discuss those things and be okay with it. Christine said, why waste time? And sometimes, and this is another thing, sometimes you don't want to waste time. Sometimes sometimes I'm knackered. I don't even want to do a long session. Like, you have to start. That's what I'm trying to say to you. You're missing out on the blessings that are coming with this because you're seeing it as an enemy. Right? You see yourself an enemy. You know what I'm saying? Like, Nikki said, obviously, if you bring toys in, it leaves room for self-pleasing aspect to come in. Yeah, but it depends on, really, again, it depends on the individual person and the type of relationships you guys have. I honestly think that I don't want to see this. Is that same argument can then be used by when people start saying, well, we should only do missionary. It's like that kind of energy. It doesn't have to lead it to that. Using a toy in your sexual arena, it's more about the exploration of pleasure. That's how you have to look at it. It's the exploration of pleasure. So with those two people, what they consent to as pleasure, that's them. Look, for me, let me be honest with you. We were discussing this in South Africa, and I was like, as for me, I'm sorry. Nobody should come to me and say, Coach, can you, touch my ass and eat the groceries? I can't do it. And I can't. I can't. I won't. And I won't ever be doing it. So sorry. And I'll let people know up front. If you like the groceries being eaten, it's not going to be me. That one I'm not exploring. I'm not even trying to find out. I don't want to know if I like it or not. I don't care. It's not for me. But when it comes to this aspect here, for you got to explore what's going to work for you and your relationship. You've got to ask yourself what's that. That is your exploration in that area. You know, um, so I think is, I think we want to. I understand why we want to say. Um, I understand why we want to say that toys will open up that space, but I think that is a natural fear of the toy rather than it actually being, actual being about understanding that there's exploration for pleasure. I mean, you have to almost, we explore and try to be creative in intimacy in other areas. We try to be creative about our finances. We be creative about our conversations, about our ideas. We are creative about our emotional aspect, where we are we are um creative in the area of our physical contact even as well. Like, people keep exploring things. People explore these things. People explore, so honestly, I'm not going to say it leaves room for the self-pleasing aspect to come in as if that's a bad thing. I'm gonna say that this is an exploration for you guys in your relationship. If you feel toys works for you, you go with toys. If toys don't work for you, you don't go with toys. Um, you know, so that's an aspect, you know. Yeah. So uh yeah, yeah, I can't do it. I just can't. I'm so sorry. I can't do it. It's one aspect for me too far. I just can't do that. Okay. But I'm not shouting anybody that does do it. If that's what you're exploring, that's what you're exploring. But as for me, yeah, um, yeah, then I can't do that. So yeah, with DJ Envy and for DJ Envy and his wife Gia, I think it was good conversation to have, and it was good to have an open exploration of that conversation. Because look what we're doing right now. We're having open-ended conversations about real stuff. And do you know what? It's not even about the people that are in this chat. I know that you guys are quite open and you'll have a conversation. And I know that you guys no, I can't. But it's, I totally understand that you guys are open to have this conversation, but there are going to be other people watching this video who need you guys and myself being open to conversating um about sex, so that even though they don't comment, even if they don't speak in the chat, even if they're not interactive, they are silently watching and picking up cues from these kind of conversations. That's why DJ Envy's conversation with his wife Gia was important, right? That's why it was important. So this is also an added aspect of why we're saying that these conversations are important, because people don't get to converse on this level very often. So when you do get this mature audience, as you guys are being mature about it and having real conversation, letting us know your thoughts, other people are able to come into alignment and go, okay, just heard that conversation. That's really interesting. Um, you know, I didn't know that, or I didn't think about that. Oh, that's happening to me too. As well. So yeah, it's good to have this kind of conversation. Ash O says there are many physiological factors that hinder people from having a satisfying sex life, which is so true. So true. Let's be honest and let's be frank. Um, People we don't, and again, this is aspects we don't talk about. Trauma, sexual trauma, are big thing, big thing. Sexual trauma is a big thing, you know and again, people don't realize this as well until you've met someone who has sexual trauma, and then you're trying to explore that. But if nobody discusses it's difficult. Where'd you go? you know yeah, so it's it's yeah, it's a lot. So I'm definitely hearing that. Someone said nobody's being honest about what having sex to a man in power does to you over time. That's an important, again, because again, that's a good point too. You know, a very good point there too. What does that do? Does that change the way that it operates? I'm sure it does. But again, if we don't discuss, if someone's not brave enough to take that first step, yeah, um, you know, I get it. You know what I'm saying? So, and so I just want to just address this comment about um, sex was actually meant for reproduction. Want to make it more than it was meant to be. She's wrong for putting that out. Now he should embarrass her publicly. Okay, so let me take your statement and break it all the way down. Number one, if sex was just about reproduction, then what if sex is just about reproduction, the man being able to climax so easily, so easily, is problematic because he's enjoying, but the partner isn't enjoying. How would that be best to serve the partner you're with? How does that best serve your partner? Since we know that God that created sex in a fashion that is servitude, worship. How is it pleasurable if one person ends up climaxing all the time, most of the time, but doesn't explore how to make the other person climax? Number two, sex isn't just for reproduction. There's an aspect of sex where we actually enjoy sex. It's meant to be pleasurable because sex, in a sense, represents what worship is with God. When I worship God, I feel pleasured. Maybe not in the same way you think of it as, but I feel good when I worship my God, when I'm in intimacy with my God. Do you know what I'm saying? And so sex becomes that intimate act as well. And we hear even in the Bible how God describes the worship of man as like Israel, how they were fornicating against God when they were worshiping other gods. That's why I've made a link between sex and worship. But sex is meant to be pleasurable. It's meant to be. God created it to enjoy. I need you to go and read your Bible, go read Songs of Solomon. Go read Songs of Solomon before we start saying quotes that don't make sense and don't align what God has said about sex and talking for God when we don't know. Sex wasn't just for reproduction. It was also meant to bring two people together. It's a bonding agent. When sex happens and people climax, serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine are just some of the chemicals that are released in sex. Dopamine ain't got nothing to do with reproduction. Serotonin ain't got nothing to do with reproduction. Oxytocin got nothing to do with reproduction. These are things that are released as chemicals to make us feel in a particular way when we have sex, right? So it's not just reproduction that sex is for, right? So, and again, yeah, let me not go too deep anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Um, I want to be honest about that. You know, it's not just for reproduction. So the aspect of sex is a unification of two becoming one. This is why when that's when you see in the Bible, you see how it will say, and now now he entered her, right, and he now knew her. Sex is also, there's an aspect of knowing that person on another level when you have sex because of the vulnerability and the nakedness, not physically but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, even sexually, that happens when we have sex. We start to become naked to one another. So sex has an aspect of bonding people together. This is why people can't get out of certain relationships, because they call it digmatized. But all that's happening is there's a release of chemicals, serotonin, that makes people want to bond together and stay in these situations. Sex is a bonding agent. So it's not just a reproduction tool. Because if it's just a reproduction tool, we don't need to bond. We just need to have sex and get it out of there. There are certain animals that have sex just for reproduction. We're not the same as them. This is what makes human beings so complicated and makes them so beautiful and makes them God's creation as they are, because we can take sex and it's not just a reproduction thing. And, I was on a safari and I was learning that lions have sex about 50. When a lion's on heat, when it's ready to go, the male lion can have sex 50 times in a day for like 10 seconds. It's mad, right? You could say that lion is just having sex to reproduce because it wants to give it the best chance possible to reproduce so that little cubs come out. Humans aren't the same way. To reduce us to reproduction is to reduce us back to just human beings. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, and so I again, I gotta disagree with that post. Gotta disagree with that particular post. But yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting, yeah. So someone asked a question. He knew her and they become husband and wife is in the Bible. So does that mean sex equals marriage? In some aspect, in the Old Testament, in some aspect, what sex was because people were okay. So in some aspect, what would happen is the woman's a virgin, the man's a virgin. Yeah. The man would enter the woman, and as he enters, right? As he enters, the as he enters, the high, how we were talking about the hymen, right? And not every woman has this, right? It's not meant to be everyone across the board. But just talking about the hymen breaking, what that's supposed to represent is the covenant of shedding blood. Man, I'm getting deep today. I didn't know I was going to get into a little Bible session, but let me just get into it, innit? We're here. So, in a sense of when the virgin woman meets that man, when he enters, when he breaks the hymen, if you want to call it that, right? I hope I'm pronouncing it rightly, of saying the right kind of term, and she bleeds. That bleeding is supposed to represent a covenant, because whenever God was working with covenants, blood was being shed. So when you look at Old Testament, Moses, before he enacted the law, he shed blood upon the people of Israel. Then it got to the New Testament when Christ came in, right? Then so they're gonna find that clip, trust me. In the New Testament, when Christ then marries us, before he marries us, he has to die, and there has to be bloodshed in order for the new covenant to come in. So, in some sense, when you have sex with someone for the first time, the virgin aspect of a woman, when you have sex with that person, there's a marriage that takes place. In some sense, I'm not saying I don't believe in soul ties. So you guys already should know I don't believe in soul ties. But there is a psychological aspect of having sex with somebody that will make you feel some way. But so in some sense, in some sense that aspect, and you're absolutely right. Yes, hymens can be broken naturally. I already know this. Some people have broken hymens sitting on a horse. I know all about that. I'm not talking about it necessarily being exactly that. I'm talking about what it should represent. You're right. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about what it means from a spiritual aspect, because this, as a Christian, this is what I believe, and that's what the question was aimed at originally, right? So the aspect of when that sex happens, right? That there's a covenant that seems to, it's meant to represent a covenant, because remember, man and woman, male and female, he made them in his image, and what we are representing, marriage is a representation of what God has already done with us. So man's marriage is supposed to mirror what God has done for man himself, which is married man. So that aspect of when the man enters a woman, and I guess if you want to call it breaks the hymen, but again, I'm talking about the aspect of just the aspect of it, and the bleeding happens. It is a covenant between the two. When you marry someone, you take a covenant. It's a contract, right? It's a contract. This is why till death do us part. The reason why we read these vows, till death do us part, is to understand that when you take it, it's we're verbally saying that just like any covenant God enacted, death has to happen before a new covenant can be enacted. Do you get what I'm saying? So, but I don't. I'm going deep in this, man. I ain't mean to go this deep, bro. Like, but it's we're here. So yeah, so that's the aspect of that. So for me, when you look at the Old Testament, that's what was happening. That was what was being shown, and it was meant to represent that a man enters a woman, then a covenant's been enacted. That man then should cleave to that woman, and they should become one. What happens when you become born again as a Christian? The Holy Spirit then comes into you. You become one with God. When I say one with God, does not mean you become a God, but you become one with God in the sense of you become born again. Your spirit is now renewed. And in the same way, in the marriage, when two become one, they cleave to one, they become they cleave to one another, and they become one. They become enmeshed. They become enmeshed, right? So yeah, so so that's the aspect. It's 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 it can represent that as well. So yeah, I mean that's why sex becomes such a heavy thing to do when we have sex with people, because there's a heavy exchange between the two people, right? But let me be honest with you. Listen, look. I don't believe in a soul tie situation. So sorry, guys. I know some people do, and I ain't got no beef for that. But I think it's an excuse. Oftentimes, it's an excuse because what happens all around it, what people say around it. It's a bit like how I feel about tithing, man. It's like people will say, "Oh, soul ties," and then be like, "When you have sex, oh, I don't believe in demons." Ah, man, I'm like, yo, listen, look. Let's keep it a buck. Okay, you have sex with somebody, there is an exchange, mentally, physically, spiritually, sometimes even financials. There's an exchange. Chemically, there's an exchange. Biologically, there's an exchange. You want to call it that, right? There's an exchange that happens at the point of sex. So it's not necessarily free because there is a transaction that happens. Now, the aspect of soul ties that I disagree with is that when we start talking about soul ties, often what they say is, "Oh, you have 5 husbands," which I kind of understand because of what I explained in the Old Testament about how the covenant of a virgin and what that kind of meant and what it was all meant to, um, you know, uh, what it's kind of stating. I get it, I understand that, right? But the way it's explained is like, oh, if you have sex with somebody, then you're tied to them, and until you break the tie, then you ain't gonna be free. You're gonna be having 5 husbands in your new marriage. Like what? Like, come on, come on. Like that stuff is what I'm talking about. Oh, the reason why your relationships ain't working is because you still got a spiritual husband. It's really like big kind of titles for stuff that psychologically kind of explained. And that's my issue with it sometimes. It over spiritualizes certain aspects rather than just saying the psychological aspect. We're so afraid of going to the psychology of explaining what happens to people, why sometimes relationships don't work, that they make it spiritual, right? And so that's the issue. And then people make it like this bold thing, and be like, you slept with 4 people, so you've got to cut all ties with 4 people. What? Yeah, because when you be having sex, you've now got 4 people you tied to. So now when you get like, that's why a lot of people had a problem with Mike Todd. I like him though, so just what I mean. Like again, things like this. Okay, so I totally get it. I believe just like anything, there are going to be people that have prayed to God, and God has, let's say, removed the weight that person felt, right? Has removed maybe the ties the person felt to other people. I believe there are aspects where there are people who have, in this aspect, fasted and prayed, and truly the ties that they hold to people have gone. But can we explain it psychologically? Because there's a psychological aspect. Just like some will pray to be healed when they get saved and they get healing, and some people don't. But there are aspects where most people, okay, need to work through the whole process. They need to work through the whole process. They need to work through the process of what. No, listen, if you can't stop thinking about your ex and it's been 3 months, you haven't got a soul tie. Is that what happened? And not in a soul tie in that sense. What you have is you have a connection that now you're trying to break apart is very difficult to. Right? So, yes, you know what? Even sometimes 6 months, you're still thinking about the ex. Like, maybe that's a deep, Ex, I don't know, bro, like it's mad. Sometimes it takes longer when your heart is broken. It takes long to heal. And so instead of just talking about, hey, you need time to heal and you need time to recuperate, you need time to go and discover yourself, you need time to go and know what you like, we throw the label of soul tie. You got soul ties. That's why you're still thinking about that ex 6 months later. How about the fact that, fam, you know what? You were so enmeshed with that person, you were so ingrained in that person's life. Separating is very difficult, right? Separating is very difficult, you know. And so that aspect, I'm like, it's and then people, and then again, what I find fascinating, especially for Christians, especially, right, will say like, okay, so let's say I dealt with one demon man. You're born again, dealt with one demon man, and now I'm carrying his spirit. Oh, baby, you're not carrying his spirit. Because if you're born again as a Christian, you can't carry the Holy Spirit and carry other spirits. What you are carrying, though, is the real is the effects of being in a psychological relationship where there was psychological damage being done. And there were spiritual things being done too. Right? But oftentimes the stuff that we equate to being spiritual is just psychological. You saying you are a born again Christian with the Holy Spirit inside of you, and you're telling me because you dealt with one demon man, a narcissist man or whatever, you now carry the spirit of him. No, you carried his behaviors. You carried his behaviors because when you spend time with people, you begin to become one. When you how can two walk together unless they agree? When you begin to spend time with people, that's why bad company corrupts good morale. When you spend time with people, you start to take on their traits. Look, you as an audience, anybody who's been with me long enough, has already started picking up some of my traits. If I say moving mad, everyone goes, yeah, moving mad. They know what moving mad is because you spent time with me, you know what it is. If someone asked you, try to copy what Kojo does. Some people be like, they'll do a great impression of me because they've spent time with me and they've learned my behaviors. If you look at any relationship you've been in where it's been a long period of time, you will realize that you've picked up a lot of their behaviors. If you spend time with a narcissist, some of you who are calling narcissist demons, whichever you want to call it, when you spend time with a narcissist, hey, I'm telling you, you can pick up their traits. And then we're slapping soul ties onto it rather than just actually know what you need to do is unlearn what you just learned. Go and unlearn what you just learned. You going to fast and pray isn't bringing the deliverance for a lot of people. Not. I believe it works for some people. It's worked for some people. That's God working in your life with the mercy and the grace for you. But a lot of times it's just psychological. Psychological. So let's move away from that and start breaking things down on a deeper component level and get into a place where we can start to really have real conversations, and not because we're ignorant that we slap a label on it and we can't have a conversation about it. You know what I mean? So look, I remember when I first had my first heartbreak after a long relationship, right? And something strange happened. It was like maybe like after you broke up, right? Yeah. After you broke up, I remember after we broke up, a situation, yeah, where the girl was just on my head, and it had been like 5 months. I was like, bro, why is this girl on my mind? Like, we're exes, like, and she was on my mind for like 5 months. It was like boom, not 5 months. She was on my mind after 5 months, and I remember at one point, it was just hitting me. Every thought was about this girl, da, 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 da. And I said, "Is this a soul tie?" I was like, "Yo, is this soul tie? Is this soul tie? Is this a soul tie?" Like, bro, like. I said to myself, I was like saying to God, like, God, is this a soul tie? Is this a soul tie? Like, bro, is this a soul tie, bro? Because, bro, man can't stop thinking about the girl, blood. I just can't stop thinking about it. Boom, 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 every second of the day. And then I had to have a conversation with her. And I was like, I had a conversation with her. We had a little talk about it. And once we had the conversation was done, do you know what I realized? It wasn't a soul tie. It wasn't a soul tie. I just allowed my mind to go to a place where I wanted clarity. I wanted to be able to close the chapter. I wanted to have closure, right? I wanted to have this closure. Also, the other aspects, where someone says she's a witch, bro. You know what I mean? The truth of the matter is, I had a delayed reaction to the breakup because I broke it off and I felt good. And then further down the line, I didn't realize, oh, I've broken up with a girl. It was a delayed reaction. Psychologically, that's what was happening to me. But then someone might slap on it and say, it's a soul tie. And I have to go and fast and pray, send money to a pastor to break it down, when really all you need to do is spend time actually working on you. And this is another thing a lot of people don't realize is you've got intimacy problems. Some of you hold on to relationships so much, past relationships, because you haven't dealt with you. Some of you haven't even sat down and actually said, what did I just go through? Some of you didn't even give your time. Look, going for a relationship, if you don't grieve the relationship, if you've been for a relationship for a long time, if you've got connected to somebody for a year or two, if you don't grieve the relationship, you go and break down eventually later on. Because remember, two are becoming one, irrespective of sex or not. Two are becoming one. When I spend time with you, I'm becoming one with you. And so when I break up with you, there's a violent thing that happens. If I don't grieve the death of that relationship, I go into other relationships still carrying that death and not dealing with the grief I'm feeling. It's very simple psychology. Very simple psychology. But then some of you will call it to be a soul tie, rather than breaking down the language of what's actually happening. So yes, some people will pray. Some people will pray. Appreciate you, Curry Fried Chicks. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Some people will pray. Some people will pray and it will work for them. I'm not gonna lie to you. Some people will pray and literally it's like everything you've ever felt has come off you. That's you. You're a minority. The majority of us need to actually go and do work. You actually need to go and study. You actually need to go and sit down. You actually need to realize what happened to me in that last relationship. Right? So if we want to talk about soul ties and carrying 4 or 5 husbands, let's call it what it is. You haven't dealt with the past relationships. So when you go into a new relationship, you're still carrying the baggage emotionally of those relationships. Oh, this guy cheated on you. This guy lied to you. This guy did this. And then you never really sat down with yourself and said, what happened to me? How has it affected me? Right? Okay, have I got daddy issues? Have I got mummy issues? We want to gloss mummy and daddy issues as soul ties. Some of you hang on to people because do you know what? You don't want to lose that person ever in your life. They're the best thing you ever had. But you're still holding on because you got issues of attachment. Let's talk about that. Right? Let's talk about that. That is not a soul tie. That is you not dealing with the psychological effects of getting into a relationship. Do you know what I'm saying? Right? Sometimes we over spiritualize these things and put, things into, and we don't deal with it the way we need to deal with it, And I'm not, again, I believe that when we interpret the word of God, when a person holds practicality and the word of God, they're able to really mesh the two together. For instance, let's say I think someone put it in here. Let me see. Okay, so let's say, for instance, generational curses, right? I think there's 2 aspects to that, right? Like, let's say, for instance, someone says, in my family, the women don't get married. Someone can say, spiritually, go and pray, fast, and that might be one aspect, right? There's another aspect that really doesn't get mentioned, which is oftentimes where the answer is. Have you checked your family dynamic? Have you? Have you checked the thought process of the people that seemingly keep having the same thought process? Because are we passing down certain mindsets? Because that's true. We can pass mindsets down, right? We see it in our generation now with parents that pass on certain mindsets to their kids, and they pass on those mindsets to other kids, their children. And now the grandkids have got their grandfather's grandfather and grandmother's mindset. Is that a generational curse? It could be considered that. But the other aspect is you passing on generational information and it's incorrect. So you now need to look at it and go, okay. So the generational curse in a lot of instances is just learned behavior from my family root tree. And let me just say this as well, right? Let me be very frank. When you look at genetics, because there's an aspect of genetics too, right? Where certain people are predisposed or they are more likely due to their personality type and the makeup of that individual person to be leaning towards certain things, right? There's an aspect of this. I can't lie to you. There's an aspect where some people lean more to certain things. The Bible lets us know in Hebrews 12, it talks about throw off every weight. Throw off every weight that will hinder you, basically. That's an iniquity in a sense, right? Like everyone has their own iniquity. Everyone has their own little sins that they keep being drawn to, right? You'll realize that every family has their sins that they keep to be learned, they're lured to, because the way your family's set up, the way that that your personalities are set up, the persons, how God created that family lineage, there are certain aspects when people get involved, when people get married, when people's lines come together, see people's genetics come together, those aspects, nature, nurture kind of comes into play a little bit. These aspects of things can lead people to certain things. So if you don't pay attention to what happens in my family, you're going to have issues. Let me give an example. People ask me why I don't drink. I don't drink. I've never drunk. It's not a thing for me, right? It's not a thing for me. I don't drink ever. I cannot, it's not my thing. But what people don't realize is from very early on, I got given some information. The information what I got given, I didn't like it. I heard that the men were good point there, Lulybird, as well. Good point. The men seemingly drink in the family, get drunk, and die. I said, oh no. Oh no, 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 no. It will not be me that will drink, get drunk, and die. And then an incident happened where I saw one of my uncles being drunk and threatening to cut off people's heads. And from that moment onwards, I said, that's it. No. I made up and I was 10. And I said, no, I'm never drinking. Now that was for me, because what I saw was the men in that family are predisposed to drinking and getting mad. So it won't be me. So I detest drink. So when people ask me, I'm like, no, sorry, I don't drink. I'm not about it. Don't like it. Da 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 da. There's an intentional turnaround now in terms of action and behavior in now seeing that, right? And now seeing that. So I've made a conscious choice not to drink. Just not my thing. So I have to be aware that also this is someone might say it's in the bloodline, it's generationally passed down in the genes. It can still, listen, if it's in my genes that people drinking can end up, dying early, whatever you want to call it, right? Then I know that I have to be very careful, even though I've beat it, I now have to pass on this information. Be aware that in our family, when the men drink, this happens. You have to be aware in our family, if all the aunties get married and divorced within 5 years, then there's something happening. You're going to suddenly realize the men that they're choosing ain't that great. And you have to start asking the question, why do they keep choosing the men they keep choosing? A lot of times, that's what the part, and for me, it's not, I don't want to say it's frustrating, but it's frustrating. We spiritualize answers, but we haven't got the real answers. Some people will be like, a pastor will come out and be like, I see in your family, all the ladies don't get married. All right, cool. All right, cool. I hear you. All right, I hear you. So we now need to go and have some conversations as to why our family members are not getting married. Something's happening. Something is happening. Something is happening to that person on a psychological level that makes them do this certain thing. So I'm not saying that there aren't spiritual things. I'm saying that there are aspects of spirituality that mesh very well with psychology, and we should be able to, okay, discuss. We should be able to look at not only the spiritual but the physiological too. The physiological is actually the explanation oftentimes for what spiritually is taking place, and we can't often see it, right? Because it's to do with the mind, you know. So we have to ask that question. We have to ask that question, and then we have to be very honest. Some of our genes, right? Now, I'm not saying there aren't spiritual things. There are spiritual things. Can I be honest? There are family members, uncles, aunts, grandfathers that have gone and sowed ties with devils. Yo, there are uncles and aunts out there that have gone to sow devil oats, sacrificing future lineages. Here's the thing. It's two-pronged, your fight and attack. Once you understand this and be aware, you should pray. You should seek God's face. And then there should be a psychological aspect of information being taken in. Right? If there, if there is an aspect where you find that in your lineage there has been some demonic interruptions, demonic covenants, whatever, it's a two-prong attack. It should be that spiritually I go and I consult my God, and then at the other aspect, when I consult Christ, there should then be an aspect of practicality. There should be. There should be. So without that practicality aspect, what you'll get is half-hearted results for a lot of people. There'll be some people who pray and God removes that thing for them. Right? For some people, it removed that thing for them. For a lot of other people, they'll pray and they're in the same position. And it's the same thing with money. It's the same thing with money. Right? People will pray to God for money, and God's like, yep, that's it. I've given you an idea. Go with the idea. Oh, I thought you were going to give me the money. No, no, no. You prayed for money, but I need you to understand you need to go and do practical stuff. Right? You've got to go and be practical too. Right? So that's another aspect, because we know that the Bible lets us know that God is the one that gives us the ability to make wealth. Yes, because once he gives you wisdom, how do you act on that wisdom? Yeah. So yeah, it's we I don't know how we got here, because we're talking about every other things, but I want people to be understanding that let's put in both the physical and the spiritual work in here. Let's not just leave it on a spiritual plane. There is physical work that needs to be done. If you can see in your family as a pattern of behaviors that you don't like, if your family keeps meeting narcissists, you've got to look into it. What are we doing that we keep meeting narcissists? You can't keep blaming. Look, the demons are going to do what the demons do. Right? The demon's going to do what the demon's going to do. What are you going to do? Because right now you sound like you're hopeless and you helpless. When you do have hope and there is help for you to make a choice. You know the greatest thing about the gospel that people don't realize? One of the greatest things about Christianity, about Jesus entering into anybody, is he gives you the ability to see there is choice. Right? The ability to see there is choice. And when you realize there's choice, you realize you have to choose. And what you choose, you start to realize has consequences. Good, bad, has consequences. So the gospel opens up people's eyes to the fact that you have choice. And so what happens is sometimes we become lazy by trying to spiritualize things that God is saying have wisdom in, have knowledge in, have understanding in. Right? So we need people to get to that place where you are looking at the practical as well as the spiritual, right? Look at both parties. If you keep meeting bad people, know that then you have to make a choice and ask yourself, why do I keep meeting bad people? Maybe I need to change something, right? So yeah, there's a lot of that work that needs to be done for some people, a lot of work. But yeah, listen, it's been great. I didn't know I was gonna be on this for this amount of time. Um, we'll probably have another discussion again about this DJ Envy situation. But listen, guys, I really appreciate you guys giving us your thoughts and stuff. It's been an amazing conversation. We will have some more because I can see that people are zesty and wanting to have more of these type of conversations. So we will open up the space again another time to have more of these kind of conversations. So, guys, like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification of uploads. I really do appreciate you. Stay locked and stay loaded. We're going to see you again very, very soon. Much love. Level black, you know what time.